All right, let's have a look here. Maybe we're actually figured this out. If we did, I'm amazed. I'm going to turn on some lights here, have a little fun with y'all. Anyway, hope everybody's good. I've got some, I can't, let me see if I can read some questions. Bear with me, I'm an absolute rookie. And I promise I will get a lot better at this. You can see I've got a face on down line camera, and then I've got my Foresight quad, which is on, but you can't see it. So let me change some lights around here to give it a little bit better look, and maybe if I lose this light as well. The let's see if this still. If I lose that window, I'm still in there. There's a little bit of latency here. Hey, look at you. What's going on there, buddy? So any questions at all? Let me see if I can get this to work. I wonder if I stand in here. Let's see, I got some little latency happening there. Forgive me on my idiocy here. I'm just trying to see what kind of a hold up I've got latency-wise. At least I'm figuring a few things out. Downtown from Chandler by way of Toronto. Doug Belton, hey bud, how are you? So, I don't know how this is going to go. Maybe you guys can help me out with... I know you can see the window. Grab a club and we'll whack a couple, shall we? Most of you are stuck inside. I'm in Arizona. The governor went on yesterday on the news and said, you know, there's a stay-at-home order in Arizona, but the interesting thing was he deemed that parks and golf courses were important for the well-being, health and well-being of the folks of Arizona. So, you know, gratefully, and I really do think we can be safe and be on golf courses. I mean, you know, I've been playing a little bit with my wife lately, and there's nobody out there when we play, and honestly, you know, I know that there's a few morons that'll ruin it for everybody. Excuse me while I kind of fix my mic wire so it doesn't get pulled off as I hit a couple. I'll get better at this so I can read your questions. Like right now, I'm not certain that if I turn off this screen, well, I suppose I'd be able to see your questions. So Tommy, why don't you ask a question, bud? And let me know if, oh, so there's a question there. Thomas, let me see if I can read that pretty well there. You know, what should we do during this pandemic? You know, at a minimum, my friend, what I want you to do is stay fit, right? It's so easy to veg out into Netflix and other streaming services, but, you know, at a minimum, you know, I'm seeing more people in my neighborhood, you know, on their bikes, walking their dogs, all those fun things. In fact, I think the dogs are going to revolt. So do me a favor, give me a thumbs up or some kind of, if you saw that in the stream, I'm curious if you could see that, me hitting a shot, and if it actually showed up, because I'm an absolute rookie on this, so forgive me. What's good drill for tempo? Let's talk about a few of these things. Give me something, guys, if you did see that, in fact. If that shot showed up on your screen. Anybody see that? Give me a thumbs up or down or whatever. Tommy, help a brother out. And I promise I'll make these more exciting in future episodes. So let me hit a shot and we'll talk about it, and we'll talk about all these things we can do. Now, you know, at a minimum, what I'd say, Thomas, is get yourself some foam golf balls, order some of those immediately. And when you order some of those, you know, hit those darn things into the wall. Now, you want a little fun. Oh, is it frozen? Video is frozen. Thanks, guys. Let me come back to, so that's helpful. So maybe now you'll see me. And I won't be able to read your questions, unfortunately, because I'm fairly moronic on this. Hopefully now you see me. Ideally, I wanted to put up another screen there to where you could really clearly see the information on the quad. So there was a couple of questions, and I promise I'll get better at this. But one of the questions was, what should we do while we're stuck inside? I said fitness. Let's stay in shape. Let's avoid. And I mean, I'm just trying to do that, but man, it's tough because I'm not as active as I was when I'm coaching all day. Get outside, have some walks, swing the golf club. I tell you what, I'm going to give a shout out to the boys at Speed Stick. If you want to come out of this pandemic a little faster, you can go to your Speed Stick protocols. There's no harm in going through the protocols with your speed sticks at a minimum. Right-handed, left-handed, that's going to help immensely. So, I mean, if you go through that, at least when you come back to the golf course, you're going to be really ready to rip it. And you know what I love about these things, you guys, is that we're never touching anything ideally. All these swings are made off the ground, and there's a big swoosh right there. Now, that's a beautiful thing. See, I don't even know if the pros realized when they developed these speed sticks how helpful they would be, not for speed, because I know you'll get a 4 or 5% increase, and that's one golf club with the irons and, potentially 20 yards with the driver, which is huge, okay? Now, the thing that's awesome about swinging the speed sticks is you have the club off the ground and you're whooshing away there, right? Well, guess what? I'm basically doing the same thing right here. So many golfers, let me explain, as I'm measured up to a ball, that club's not resting on the ground. That's a specific measure as though I was standing right here and hover it in space. So I'm bent over, that may as well be in space. That's my specific measure, waggled from my hands to the mat right there. And as I hit a little shot, I'll go for it. So there's a nice strike. I mean, you can't really see. I'll turn off the, whoop, wrong one. Turn off the light for a second. Little baby fade, 161 yard 7-iron, and for me that is awesome. So I love that little bleedy style fade. Now that's a replay right there, me hitting a shot, so I'll turn it off. It'll play another time. And we'll go to turn that bad boy off for a second here. Disarm it. So inside, hit some foam balls, hit some wiffle balls. I don't want to try to promote my stuff in bad times, but if you have a smart ball, fantastic. If you have any ball, like now that you're stuck at home and you don't need something portable that's inflatable like a smart ball, like all of these, this kind of stuff to where you can kind of organize your arms. What I find that when you organize your arms, you guys, you are also managing your wrist conditions, because think about this. As you bend your elbows, guess what's happening? I'm taking on more extension and flexion in my wrists, okay? Well, particularly extension as I suck my arms into a chicken wing. So when you can kind of manage your arms, you're managing your wrist conditions. Whenever you manage your wrist conditions, the club face is more manageable. There's everything really is about, where this club face is pointed, okay? I mean, most people are pretty reliable with their path numbers, whether they're fadey bias or hook bias. Path numbers are usually pretty consistent for golfers. They might be consistently bad, but at least they're consistent. It's this club face that we have to kind of manage. And if we're managing our arms better, we're also managing the angles in our wrists, and we're going to have more reliable shots with our club face point where we want it to. So, you get yourself a 6-inch ball, put it between your forearms. If you're so inclined to get a tour stick or smart ball, thank you very much. What makes it kind of cool, it's kind of fuzzy, and it's inflatable, and you can adjust the lanyard. And after you hit a shot in the through swing, when it kind of hangs out and lands in your chest, it doesn't drop and you're not chasing it. So that's the reason I invented it in the first place. I got tired of picking up the other products that I use between forearms, okay? So at home, swing your speed sticks. Manage your conditions, when I mean wrist conditions, okay? And you can do that a variety of ways, you guys. You can do a ton of mirror work. And the biggest thing I see at my golf school, that obviously not really running at full blast these days, you can imagine, is that people really don't have a sense of their wrist conditions. They go back and they take on risk by having a swing where they fold everything up and create way too much chaos with that club face right there. And then since the golf swing is only 1 to 1.2 seconds long, that 0.3 seconds of a downswing, they don't have enough skill or practice to get that thing reliably onto the golf ball. So what we find really helps is if we take away excessive wrist action, and I'll go over a little bit of this with you right now, this would be horizontal hinging. Okay, this is just me setting the club on a table and horizontally knocking all the red solo cups right off the table into the trash. Okay, so you can see what I mean. I'm just kind of swiping that back. That's horizontal hinging. Now if I horizontally hinge this and then I get into my top of backswing position, that's a pretty darn good looking position there to have club face control to hit the golf ball. If I vertically hinge this, hinge it up toward my face, and I go to my top of my backswing position, that toes down somewhat, and that's going to take a little bit more management of the club face to get that thing on the ball reliably. What I'd say is for anybody that's got a little bit more vertical hinging, you better have a longer swing. And you better be able to turn more to get the club back farther so that your brain can sort of figure out that club face on the way down. Don't think that every swing isn't a mild compensation. Every single swing you do is a compensation. There's no perfect swing time after time. Now, the least amount of compensations, the more reliable you are as a golfer. So I don't care if you have like Robert Rock or you look like Tiger Woods when he's on his, the 2000 Tiger Woods, 2006 Tiger Woods, unbelievable golf swing, right? Adam Scott, Rory McIlroy, but don't think even those guys don't have compensations they're managing every single swing they make, because they are. In fact, I've got a series of Rory McIlroy swings in my 3D system at my studio at work, and if you map every swing on top of one another, there's differences in every single swing that you can easily see, even though he was trying to hit the same shot 5 or 6 times in a row. So as beautiful as his swing is, he's still got mild compensations. The key and why he's so amazing is that he doesn't have all those compensations. He doesn't have to figure out 50 of them. He's only got a couple of them to manage. And that's what I want you guys to be able to do. So pardon me for a second while I bounce over to see some questions here. Let's see, there's a ton of them. There's a question about tempo. Let's see what else. And you explained that you explained position of back leg as transition starts, straight, bent, and why. So let's talk tempo, back leg, practice session in my garage with Amiibo. Interesting. Okay. So some good stuff here. Let's come back to it. Tempo, guys. I'm a huge fan of tour tempo. The family, and gosh, I'm having one of those senior moments right now. Novacell's, John Novacell. They came up with this great app called Tour Tempo. It's pretty inexpensive. It's in the App Store. And they've basically got it down to the majority of people in a bell curve, guys. The majority. There's always a few on distal ends, right? But the majority have a ratio that if a golf swing's 1 second to the top, or I'm sorry, if it's 1 second from takeaway to impact, 0.75 of that's backswing, 0.25 is downswing. So they've got some great relationships. And you can just put on your earbuds or your ear pods, and you can put the app on your phone, and you can figure out which one of those 3-to-1 relationships kind of suits you, and just put that thing in your pocket. And it, they have a pretty simple thing here. I think I have it on my phone right here. I'll play it for you. Give a shout out to the Tour Tempo boys. So I'll hold this up to my mic. It's reinstalling because apps that I don't use all the time kind of just come off my phone. So it'll be back on there in a second. When that thing's back on there, I'll give you an example of what that sounds like. But it's a great way for you to kind of get into a cathartic practice session of, walking into the golf ball, getting in, organizing with that tempo in mind. And, you'll hear this, when I play it for you, you'll hear the song Tour Tempo with the sense of, the backswing, you just started off on tour, the top is tem, and the strike is po. And they've got different ratios you can play that at. And I'm telling you what, it's fantastic. That 7-iron, a little tuggy, not too bad though. One of the questions that I just quickly looked over, one of these days when I figure this out, I'll be able to kind of scroll the questions over the screen, is trail leg. Okay, so Tour Tempo, let me see if that app's good to go. And I'll play you what it sounds like. here we go. Oh, come on. Reinstalling. Still. Must be a heavy-duty app. Where are we at with that bad boy? Anyway, trust me, Tour Tempo app, it's great. You'll love it. Get it. Good for putting, chipping, and full shots. You get different relationships. Full swing and then short shot tempos are great. Question about trail leg. A lot of people that come to my golf school look like this. Watch on the left screen. So I've got some flex in my trail leg. They go into the backswing and they've been told to brace that leg. Well, what happens is they actually take on more flex in the backswing, and that freezes the hips. When you freeze the hips, you can't turn the upper torso, and you can't really develop any swing length. Well, guess what? I'm 51, man. I'm not that flexible anymore. I need to loosen this stuff up, especially that pelvis, rotate myself, and get some swing length. That's a pretty big deal. So let me see if I can see these questions on my, oh, dropped my iPad. You know, greasing up that pelvis. Yep, you heard it here. Grease up that pelvis. Let's see if I can see these questions here. And what I want you to do, the feeling is kind of push into that trail leg so that you can get that pelvis to turn sharply. And if you can turn that pelvis, that trail leg is getting a little straighter. The pelvis is turning deeply. That's going to allow you to kind of turn your shoulders against a pretty turned pelvis. And now you can kind of have a sense of transitional squat, rotation, and push. So let's see if I can see these questions on my iPad here. Maybe not. So there I am live, and I'm seeing myself talking. Good. Awesome. So questions. Lots of stuff. Can you explain the position of the back leg? Cool. Practice sessions in the garage today with the Mevo 7-iron club. You were faster than your 6-iron. Well, you're using one length, so that's kind of bizarre. I mean, technically, the club should travel the same speed at one length, right? So pitching wedge through, say, 5-iron with one-length clubs, you're going to want those traveling, you know, they're going the same speed. Now, let's see what else we have here. Does that ball work if you slide? Let's see. Does that ball work if you slide into impact? So regarding the smart ball, you know, the idea, you know, we don't really want to slide too much, because if we slide too much, guess what? The genius computer, our brain goes, hey, we better not let our path get too shoved out to right field. Because you can see in the left screen there, okay? You can't really, you know I'm sliding because you see me in the right screen. But basically, I'm moving the inclined circle of my hula hoop more and more and more to the left, which means my path is going to be more inside out when I get to the ball. Well, we don't let ourselves do that. We basically kind of get tired of hitting it to the right, and then we add some right-hand save, and we kind of flip it back online if we do at all. So we don't want to slide too much. Robert Stoner, how do we properly shallow the downswing? Shallow the club on the downswing. You know, of course, if you follow me, you know that my friend and I, David Woods, invented the PlaneMate. And the PlaneMate is a kind of a golf fitness training aid that gives you enough confusion to recognize a few key things. Again, most of the people we see have, and if I hit a shot, or I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just put one of my swings up here on this right screen here, okay? So there's my swing on my right screen. And this is what we see as this thing kind of settles in here. There we go. So as I go back, so this is known as P2, first parallel, okay? Most people aren't there, my friend. Most people have it sucked in over here. Hate to tell you. This is, when I get golf school peeps, they got it zipped in. They're over here somewhere. Why? Because they're probably tired of slicing it, and they feel like they have to zip it over here in order to swing inside out. Do not try to swing inside out. That's a no-no. We're not swinging out to right field. If you've heard that, sorry, there's a better way to describe it. Okay, we're going to get the club in a position, to your point, Mr. Stoner, I got to say that because that sounds good, is that, I knew some of you guys in high school, is that if we get the club up here and then we let the club, watch my arms, they're not dropping, but where's the club going? There's a sense of relaxation, and that's why we have the PlaneMate, because we say a backswing is a resistance, okay? To further the backswing, it's resistance, it's a stretch, I'm transporting my arms, I can't talk. And then there's a sense of relaxation with my pivot. Now, if the club is behind my hands at all right here, at all, and I'm unwinding, where's that club head going? It's going inside out. Okay, I don't have to try to shove it inside out. That's what a lot of reasonable golfers do. And I say reasonable, I'm talking 7 handicappers to maybe 15 handicappers that play 3 times a week. That's the golfer that comes to me, they're a little too closed, and maybe they got a slide with their clothes and they have too much face roll. They're pretty good, but they can't control Hector, the face vector. Thank you, Scotty Cox, for that one. Cox, you know what I mean. So let's go up to P3, you guys. So P3, people. You know, P3 is a position where the lead arm's parallel for the first time. Boom, right there. What do we see here? Typically, we see a lot of this. Okay, I had a great guy, Chris, signed up for an online lesson yesterday. It's awesome. He's, sheltered at home. He sent me a swing in his jammies in his backyard. I bet your neighbors love that, Chris, okay? So Chris is working hard. He's got a coach back home. He's working through a lot of stuff. He sent me a couple of videos. And I don't want you to quit your coach back home. I just want to be the person that kind of helps bump you back into the rails and maybe ask better questions when you go see your coach. But we took him from something like this that naturally had to kind of find some more steeper plane on the way down and got him a little bit more organized at P3, where the golf club had a chance in direction to kind of go and lay down a little bit. Because guess what, guys? Baseball. There's my pitcher. I'm waiting on the pitch. I'm waiting. I like the pitch. I like it. I like it. I like it. What's the bat do? The bat doesn't get steeper. Okay? The bat lays down as we rotate. And if it lays down a little bit, guess what? As I rotate, it has to go inside out. Okay? So you got to make sure you get the club. David Woods and I call that kind of holding up the umbrella there. Don't let the rain fall on you early in the takeaway. That's a no-no. Get the club up so that you can keep the rain off you. Now you have a chance in transition for the club to shallow a little bit. Let's see what else we have, and then I got some funny faces. I'm sure I'm going to get some funky comments in Spanish. I don't read Spanish. I don't read French either. Man, I actually had some French class, so I'm embarrassed to say. Let's groove through a top of backswing position here. Top of backswing, boom. All right, let's talk about that. Now, guess what you see? You still see, a reasonably fit dude, okay, plays a lot of golf, right? And what do you notice? That club is pointing a little bit off to the left side of the room. It's exactly where it should point, because if I put up the face-on view there, my swing doesn't get to parallel. And if it doesn't get to parallel, guess what? The club shouldn't point parallel to where I'm aiming. So here's here's the top of my 51-year-old swing right now. And that is it, okay? That's all I got. I got to go to more yoga class. Boy, oh boy. But anyway, that's pointing off to the left side of the room, as you saw. That's known as P4. A little pressure into the lead side. Here's P5, okay? I'll show you what that looks like down the line, too. And trust me, I'm no Ben Hogan, but I keep the ball in front of me pretty well. And hit it okay. So let's take a little looky here and kind of go back to, P3, P4. I'll talk about a magic move in a second, then we'll wrap it up. So right there, P5. Okay, just a sliver of arm depth. That's a position right there where you can hit pretty straight golf shots. As the club comes down, so there's passing through P6. I'll get you on P6 right here. Shaft parallel for the last time. Sorry, the shutter speed's a little off. There's your classic impact position with your hands fractionally ahead. This ball was a bleedy fade, I think. Some overtaking. And notice my head is not down, people. I'm not a real fast swinger. It's probably 85 mile an hour 7-iron. Okay? So let's go back to live cameras here. Cameras, auto capture. There we go. So one thing I want to talk to you guys about, and then I'll call it, and I'll do, let's see, Brian, good. Martin, love your golf school last year and hoping your instructors are doing well. Would you mind showing the difference between hitting 3-wood off the tee versus a tight fairway lie? Okay. Since you went to a golf school, Brian, I will end this session with that. And guys, I will do more of these because guess what? I just figured out how to do it. I'm all excited. I always say I won't be out-teched, but I'm certainly out-teched by all these gaming kids that can turn on their games and talk to you from their couch. Because God knows my son loves watching those knuckleheads, okay? But power to them for doing something like that, even though it is gaming. At least they're having some fun, showing people how to game and etc. Now, I'm going to give you guys one little bit here that this is an athletic move. To be a decent golfer, you have to have it, okay? There we have the weight at the end of a stick, right? That weight at the end of a stick, we hold in our hands. Get your hands on properly, please, people. Most of you bugger this up. You think you have a good grip, but you do not, I assure you. You're probably, and if you think you do right now, chances are you don't. And I'm teasing, of course. But please pay attention to good hands. And there's some great videos on YouTube. I've got a couple up there that I think are good grip videos. Look up Martin Chuck Ben Hogan grip. Martin Chuck Ben Hogan grip. Just review it and get your good hands on there, because we want this leathery unified pair of mitts on there, okay? Now as I settle in to hit a shot, what happens here is the backswing isn't just some kind of a move where I pick the club up with my hands. It's a move that's inspired by my body. So a good player settles in, there's a little bit of footwork, a little Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, waggle, Greg Norman, you can add in a ton more, a moment of settling, then an event that gets the club slung up to the top. While this thing is going up to the top, people, guess what? There's an event before it gets to the top, there's a stabilizing pressure move that gets back to the lead side. That's a stretch shortening cycle that's so important for golf. So many folks come to the school and they go like this. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. They have no athleticism to bust it. And I know it's hard because people don't feel they have time. And when you don't have time, you panic and you want to slow everything down. But if you want to be good, you got to get past the fact that, guess what? You're going to miss a bunch. And that's absolutely okay. I'm thrilled when people have the courage to miss in order to get better. And I didn't say you got to swing out of your shoes. I just said you got to feel some pressure, right? So I've got my buddy, just this clicky device, and the Pin High Pro. And just as an example, you can hear that kind of click happening there. Well, on a backswing, that might come off just a hint. It's a bit thick. So my pressure, I'm not shifting my weight to my right foot. The club's moving, so there's a bit of pressure that goes to the right. But I'm reestablishing that sense of force into my lead side so I can unwind and push away from the ground. And people, if there's one thing that I see that's really tricky, is that they don't get their hands on. Okay, so the face is funky. If the face is funky, you'll never get this move, all right? But if you get your hands on nice, and you have that sense of pressure to that lead side, man, that's going to get your body in that nice stretched, shortened cycle for you to respond and smash it. So, one question. Let me grab a 3-wood here. If I have one handy, where's my 3-wood? I think I've got a couple 3-woods. Let's see, here's one. Hitting a 3-wood off the ground versus off of a tee. So let's pepper one here. See what we got. 3-wood. 3-wood should go, if I hit it well, in the air about 240. Let's see. No pressure, right? Let's see how I do here. That felt pretty good. Go! Oh, hooked it a little bit. Okay, 232 in the air, stopping at 245-ish. Okay, reasonable strike. Ball speed, $148, carry 234. Now I hit that pretty well, not gonna lie. If I'm warmed up, maybe I get my 240 in the air, okay? But the point of it is, why am I a pretty good 3-wood hitter? Because the club is traveling relative to the ground in a nice manner. It's not too steep, it's not too shallow, okay? It's Goldilocks. Goldilocks didn't like this porridge, she didn't like this porridge, but she liked the one particular porridge that was, quote, just right. And I know you say, well, Martin, hey, what's the magic secret for being just right? And I said to you, well, you can't be too over the top and steep because that porridge is going to pound into the ground, and we're going to figure out a way to separate our arms to fix that. Okay, the next porridge is going to be too shallow here, where we're going to have thin ones, chunky, drop-kicky ones. So, again, coming back to the great question of, man, how do you hit a 3-wood off a little tee or off the ground? Honestly, I hit 3-wood. You know what I do? I don't even put it on a tee if I'm hitting it off of a par 4. I kind of whack the turf a little bit and perch the ball up a little. I don't even feel the need to break a tee or even use a little tee when I hit 3-wood off the ground. I just kind of perched up and give myself a preferred lie in the tee box because the rules kind of allow me to do that. So, what I'd say to you out there is, we got to manage our swing direction. Can't be too across this way, can't be too inside this way. But then I'd come back to you guys. The reason you're too across one way or too inside out is because you're fighting something right here. And we always kind of, we try to manage what this face is doing. If the face is wide open, guess what? We figure out a way to back away from us, give us more time to square it, right? If we're too shut, we try to stand up and add loft as well. So it comes back, let's get our hands on reasonably. Let's find out what matchup, what matchup works for that grip. But ultimately, one last thought, and then I got to go. It's dinner time, okay? One last thought, and I promise I'll do more of these. These are fun. Hopefully you're enjoying it. And leave some tips. I know I suck at this for the first time. I'm sure I do, but I'll do better. And I'll figure out how to make it more engaging, okay? I want you to think about this. If I held the club in my pincher finger, my thumb and index finger, and I got this thing kind of tick-tocking like this, now I can make it go faster. While the club is in a state of fall, I can raise my hand. So while it's going down, I raise the handle up. Guess what? That is playing with the momentum, playing with the inertia of it, and it accelerates the club. Now here's the beautiful thing about this, people. Golf has plenty of down in it, all kinds of down, okay? And actually good players help everything go down by getting a little bit lower. Why? So that they can do this. They can basically do what I just did in this oversimplified example of feeling the weight of the club and pulling the handle up. Because while this thing's going down and I'm pushing up, guess what my shoulder's doing? It's moving up. It's getting this club to get slung past my arm fast, but it's also managing the club head. And the club head, in essence, instead of a steep ascent like this, instead of something that's going to go thwack, by that push and rotation move, I get a nice kind of longer flat spot right here. And if you get that kind of longer flat spot of a good golfer by you using your body properly, you are on your road to some goodness, okay? But guess what? You're not going to do that if you think you got to keep your head down. Because if you think you got to keep your head down, you better have started golf when you're about 7. And you better have played every day. Whether your coach was good or bad, you might be a good player. But believe you me, this event of hitting a shot, so I'll hit a little 7-iron right here. Let me turn back on it's armed. We'll hit one, we'll talk about it. Should go about 160 in the air. Okay, that's solid. Looks like it's flying pretty straight. Little draw. Sit, sit, sit. Okay. Anyway, this is a down and there's an up. Watch it again. Okay, it'll play. Here is a down about to start and there's an up. And that's a sling. That's a catapult. And if we don't have that catapult, everybody, you are losing out a lot. And I'm telling you, if you think you got to keep your head down in golf, you are sorely limited in your abilities. Unless, like I said, this event of developing a backswing, there's my development of my backswing. Here's the down piece, plenty of down. Here's the offset event of up. My left shoulder is going up. The club is catapulting past my hands. There's the lovely picture of impact everybody loves, right? But that is a freewheeling motion. And there's that little squatty move and rotation. And, an old man hitting a 7-iron out there, pretty good, okay? So on my first venture into YouTube Live, I did a couple off my phone, but I wanted to try to see if I could use some technology. And yeah, so here we are. So good fun. I'll figure out when we're going to do these regularly. And thanks so much for tuning in. Now let me make sure I turn this off so y'all don't see me in my jammies at some point. Take it easy.